Welcome to Daily Steps from One Extraordinary Marriage, where we outline simple steps that you can take to have the ultimate marriage adventure. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. In today's show, we answer the question, how do you create intimacy with a large family?
This wife goes on to say, we have 5 kids, including 3 teenagers, a 9-year-old, and an almost 2-year-old who has developmental delays and lots of medical appointments. With this many people, someone is almost always unhappy, and there's a lot of stress. On top of that, my husband's the only provider for our family, and that's a lot of pressure. So we're stuck in this area of intimacy. And the reality is that those are all huge stressors.
Yes.
And we know no matter how big your family is, no matter what your responsibilities are, stress impacts intimacy. Plain and simple. And, so often when people get in this place, it's easy to think about, hitting that home run.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Just having this epic moment or this epic date night or epic sexual encounter. And it's got to be epic. Right? Because there's all the stress. So we want to eliminate all the stress in one, clean sweep. And really with this many people in the house and this much stuff going on, we collectively, I don't care what you have going on in your life, have to actually think in terms of the baby steps.
I agree. I think it's looking at not going for the big home runs and doing the little things consistently and over. That's where you guys are going to win in this game, is being consistent with the time you do have with one another and making sure that they're on your calendar and you take care of yourselves during this time. Because the kids are eventually going to grow up. We're praying and believing that the youngest overcomes the developmental issues,
Absolutely.
right? Grows out of those. We're going to believe for those and with you guys in that. And yet it's taking those baby steps, as Elisa said. What are we going to do? What are we going to do this week that just gives us this time together? And yes, it may not be massive chunks of time because of what you have going on, but can you do 30 minutes? Can you do 2 30-minute blocks? Can you do 4 15-minute blocks that are just the two of you? And we have to, folks, as married couples, and Elisa and I are just realizing this more and more, we need to carve out this time that it's just us. And as little as it is, let's put down the phones. Let's look into each other. I don't wanted to say look into each other's eyes, but I know that can get a little funky for some of us, me included. But let's look at each other and go, let's make the most of this time.
Well, and the other aspect of this is, what is intimacy in your marriage, right? How are the two of you defining intimacy? Because here in the one family, we talk about intimacy on a variety of different levels. Obviously, the one that so many people think about first and foremost is that physical, sexual intimacy.
Correct.
But there's also your emotional intimacy, your financial intimacy, your recreational intimacy, your spiritual intimacy. And so can you choose to find those smaller chunks of time throughout the week to foster intimacy on all levels, right? So you start to see, if you think of all of these different intimacies as a wheel, if they're not functioning well, then you've got a flat. And we all know what it feels like to drive on a flat tire where you're like thump, 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 thump. But what happens if over the course of the week, like Tony said, you find those 4 15-minute blocks of time where, maybe one day you're praying together and another day you're just sitting down having a conversation and you get that, that lingering kiss in the bedroom and all of these different things. And you look from a Sunday to a Sunday and all of a sudden you look at each other and you're like, oh, there you are. Right? I'm reminded of that scene in the movie. I think it's either Hook or one of the Peter Pan movies. It must have been Hook, because Tinkerbell looks at the character of Robin Williams and says, oh, Peter, there you are.
Yeah.
And I think, so much of what we can do in marriage actually brings us back to that place. Can we do those little things that has our spouse look at us and say, oh, there you are. We've got that connection again.
One last thing I would love to say is about our kids. You said, there's always somebody unhappy. Okay, that's up to them. Well, we have kids ourselves and they're unhappy as well. You know what? They need to learn how to deal with those emotions, but we don't have to take them on. You do not have to be the bearer of everybody's emotions. You don't. You're yourself. You're your person. And you need to be able to be strong in yourself to be able to go, and what we say in our family, a lot of times, that's a you problem, not a me problem. And it doesn't mean I don't love my kids. It doesn't mean that I'm discounting the emotion that they're going through, but I'm not going to allow their unhappiness to impact my life and what we're going to do, Elisa and I, because sometimes they're unhappy because Elisa and I are going to go grab a coffee together. That's a you problem, not a me problem. You're old enough. You're here. You can stay home. We're going to do some time for us because we need to connect. Want more information on building intimacy in all areas of your marriage? Check out oneextraordinarymarriage.com/strip down.